Hi everybody, this is the Mind Link Frequency. I'm here with Michael Clawson, and we're going to talk about music improv and vocalization, some dance and movement improv. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that little move you put in there for the
Gotta get that movement. Yeah.
Gotta get that movement. Life is movement, right?
Oh, it really is.
Movement.
And you got all the equipment here for some movement for sure. You got some hand drums. And
I'm so happy to have this room now, like, dedicated, right? A dedicated space to, like, the joy of jamming with people.
yeah.
Because it feels like it's such a central part of what makes me feel alive and vital. And like, in that way, like, juicy kind of alive, more than just,
really,
I'm going through the routine, here's another day, Groundhog Day.
Clock in, clock out.
Yeah, clock in, clock out. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever been meant for that kind of living.
No. I mean, I can understand that. I don't always, like, I go back and forth with it, you know. I do like, I like the consistency, but at the same time, I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, I totally forgot something.
What did you forget?
It's okay. There we go. One move. But yeah, God, you got a lot of instruments here. You got, what are these hand drums here?
Man, well, let's see. I mean, I got a conga drum that I've had for years and years and years.
Very nice.
You know, they come usually in a pair or even a trio. This, I think, is the deeper one. It's not on a stand right now. And, God, I just got this one repaired the other day. The head is a goat skin.
Oh, wow.
Should I pull it in front?
Sure, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Just like, okay.
Let's
People
get a
know what
little
the hell they're talking
visualization
about.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a beauty. I love this. Is hand carved
very nice.
log from Ghana.
Wow,
With,
all the way from Africa.
Yeah, all the way from Africa.
This is
And
quite
it's like
something.
somebody put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, you can see the grooves where I guess they used the chisel or what was that?
Yeah, I guess it would be like a chisel or something to carve it out. I mean, hollow it. Yeah, I mean that's like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's quite
Holy
something.
cow.
And that's very beautiful, intricate work.
Yeah. And they use a goat skin head on top.
Oh, very
It's
nice.
got a really nice. And I add my ring effect always with percussion.
Oh, really? So
I
you
use
do
my
that
wedding ring as
intentionally?
a percussion instrument.
That's very cool.
So far, it seems to be surviving.
What's your favorite sound that comes with using that as a piece?
I just like the really high, piercing kind of sound versus the ringing tones, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a nice accent, I guess.
It has a nice
kind of
sound
use
to
it with everything,
That is
unless
cool.
it can't be beaten up on by gold or something. But gold's pretty soft metal, so it doesn't seem to hurt.
Yeah, very resilient. It's a
And-
nice ring.
And I think the ring just sort of, for me, like if this was a perfect ring, it wouldn't symbolize what life feels like. Because I've never had perfect life.
Yeah.
It's like,
Who has?
Who's had a perfect
Who
life?
has?
So
Oh my
I like it a
God.
little scratched up, a little dented, you know,
You gotta
but
show
still
that,
hanging in there.
that doing things, that real living.
Living,
Yeah.
getting a few scars on the way, you know, it's kind of part of the process. So I kind of like my wedding ring reflecting the nature of what feels like life, where just, you know, you get bruised, you get bumped. It's not about keeping it all together all the time. It's about like falling down and then, whoa, okay, didn't expect that. I guess I better get back up and
Dust
take
yourself
some
off.
deep breaths and move forward from
Yes,
here.
sir.
Right? Whatever. Like we were talking before about, you know, you come in and you're kind of, in life, it's kind of philosophical, but you dealt kind of some kind of hand, you know, you don't pick, at least as far as I know, you don't pick where you land on the planet,
I would agree.
you know,
Definitely
and
agree
you
with
don't
that.
pick your parents. Some people say you do, but, you know,
Yeah.
maybe.
So many interesting philosophies with that too. You know, it's
Totally.
like, is it the stork? Is it Yahweh? Is it God? Is it Allah or whatever? You know, it's like
Yeah.
all these different ideas.
Oh God, yeah. You can go all over the place for that one.
Yeah, no,
But
you can definitely go miles.
yeah,
and
so
miles.
this is like there's enough little options. Kalimba. This is got a pickup on it too, so you
Oh
can,
yeah, I can see the direct
you can
input there.
amp
Huh?
and then I haven't experimented with this yet, but
Very beautiful finish
it's a
on that.
pickup. I know, it's a pretty one.
Yeah.
And it's like you know, I'm thinking, oh, I could probably put this through, a laptop or something.
Oh,
and maybe
yeah, most definitely.
distort
Just,
it, mess
direct
around with the
input, yeah.
sound, you know, so it was other kind of
There's
things.
some
'cause-
writing on the face of it too, huh?
Musica.
Oh, nice. Yeah, musica. Oh, that's such a nice tone to it.
Yeah, it's a sweet
Very,
little,
a lot of resonance there.
sweet little ring to it.
So where'd you get that?
I got it on Amazon.
Yeah,
Where they got it, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Probably stole it from somebody and they're raping the entire planet.
Oh,
But hey,
God. Yeah,
you can't
very
resist
true.
sometimes. It's like, oh man, I could just have that sent to my door.
I know it's so crazy because it's like we're like it's like, oh, I don't want to support this capitalism, you know. For me personally, I do like capitalism to an extent, but then like you can see the abuses of it and you're like, oh my goodness, it's terrible, but at the same time it's like, but I can benefit from it. At the same time, it's so.
And it's our culture. Our culture is built on this capitalism thing, you know, and
Yes.
of course people could talk for days about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is the thing we got going. Again, it's the hand we're dealt. We're living in this capitalist system.
Very much
How
so.
do you
Very much
maintain sort of your personal integrity and your values, and at the same time, you know, not just go off to some shack in the woods by yourself?
So. Yeah,
your own
hermitude.
world. Yeah, I mean, I'm a psychotherapist too, as you know, so I've got
Yeah.
some clients that I've
Embrace
seen for a
that
long
life.
time that talk about, yeah, I just wanna go live in a shack in the woods, man.
Just fuck it. Just let me get out here.
Yeah, people are too crazy, you know. It doesn't make any
I
sense.
hear that, though.
It doesn't make any sense. What's going on, you know? I totally relate. Like, yeah, I know.
It's a wild world for sure.
Yeah, it's a wild world. But that's one of the things I like about improv. Because
Yes.
here you are, you can come together as a group of people with more of a conscious intention, right? It's not just sort of a random thing. You come together and say, let's like play off of each other.
Yeah.
Let's just sort of start something and see where the process maybe wants to go, and not be too controlling of it. Try to let go of control a little bit, and you don't know where it's gonna collectively end up.
There's
Right?
so many different avenues, so many beautiful things.
And that's the surprise. That's the surprise of it, and I love that because I think of it opens up a whole. I'm really thinking about groups and group dynamics. You know, what does it mean to be part of a group, a tribe, a community, a family? Right? We're all born into these.
That
groups.
is a big question, actually.
It is.
So what brought you to that line of thought? Like just like you're just looking around and jamming with people and making music and doing, you know, working, doing your thing, or was there some other catalyst that brought you to thinking about?
That's a great
groups and
question. Well, I think I was born into a family group in this country in this time period of the last 70 years or whatever, right? And my family group, I would say, I was born into was very dysfunctional. Both my parents were alcoholics.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's very intense to grow up with it as a child.
It's intense to grow up with that. So they didn't make any sense sometimes to me, and I think they were medicating because whatever they were born into
Their
didn't quite make
experience.
sense to them or whatever, and their way of dealing with it, unfortunately, was like a lot of people do.
Damaging.
The pain was like, well, let's just dull the pain
Yes.
as a way to survive, right?
Yeah.
They were on survival mode. So I was born into that, and I think I was born in with a certain level of sensitivity, I would say. I think that was intrinsic in just my character or something, that I was like, I picked up on a lot of stuff.
Very empathetic, very feeling, mirror neurons.
Yeah, and it's rough to be sensitive and born into a dysfunctional, fucked up system.
I can't even.
Because
I
you're going,
I can
like,
kind of imagine actually.
how do you process all that? How do you make sense of all that? Why are they acting this way? And then they seem like different people when they're like that.
Bipolar, flipping.
Yeah. So I think it kind of set me up to go, wow, what is it? It made me ask a lot of questions because I just couldn't cruise along happy-go-lucky, everything's fine, I don't have to worry about it, just do what everybody else does because it works. It was like clear, this doesn't work, man, something's fucked up.
Yeah,
And
something was really
set me on a
intense.
path to like figure out, what is that, what's not fucked up look like, for one. That's a big question. What's not
normalcy,
fucked up?
right?
Or not even normalcy, because I think normalcy is fucked up. I think normal equals fucked up.
That's
pretty
actually
much.
interesting. That's an interesting thought. Yeah,
Right?
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do push themselves into normal, and it's like not functional. It's dysfunctional
Yeah.
because they'll deny certain things. And is that kind of the reason you got into psychotherapy? Because of this
definitely.
dysfunction? Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
I'm sure. Because I was a guy who was then kind of on a mission to understand myself, my family, why it was the way it was. Then as I got into the bigger world, and then you're like in other groups, and this is where the whole group thing is fascinating to me, because I think I felt like, in my family, I think I felt like, kind of like almost like an outsider. Like I would observe my family and go, you know, I feel like we should be talking about something we're not ever talking about. You know, like kind of like
There's
alcoholic
something more that
secrets
needs
and
to be talked
stuff. You know, there's a reality you don't acknowledge.
Left
often.
unsaid.
Left unsaid.
Okay.
And it's part of maybe the unwritten rules sometimes is like, well, we don't talk about the fact that this happened.
Because we're normal, right?
We want to be normal.
Yeah.
And we want other people to think we're normal.
Yes.
And I grew up in a family where it was really important to convince the world we were normal, even though I think in the inside we all felt like, we're not normal. We don't really fucking fit in. We're really fucked up or something. You know, something's wrong here. Right. It was that vague, something's wrong here.
Wow.
That's
an intense
so it was
childhood.
a whole philosophy my father taught me. You just fake it. Fake it through life, otherwise you'll be a target. He literally told me, it's a dog-eat-dog world. That was his approach. It's a vicious world. Just pump yourself up, look big and bad.
Be imposing.
Deepen your voice, shake your hand, shake people's hands hard, and just if you're in pain, do not let anybody see that pain, right?
Hold it inside.
Hold it inside, make it a secret pain, and then they won't target you. They won't rip your throat out or something, right?
I mean, there is some truth in that. I would say,
on your podcast?
oh fuck yeah!
Okay.
Anything goes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is very free
I
form.
better clear that with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. No,
Adult content.
Adult content, everybody. This is the mind link frequency.
That's right. Children, run away.
Don't watch this. If you're a parent, you know, make your kids go in the other room. But yeah, wow, that does sound like a very.
I think that sent me on a whole quest to figure out, and it's been a good quest.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to be human? How do we create something that really supports you to be your complete and whole true self, right? Because that whole family system I was in was supporting us to be false selves, to have a big facade, pretend, act normal, even though you don't feel like it.
That way.
And certainly, if you have feelings like sadness, fear,
Squirrel them
squirrel them away, baby. Just
Wow.
put on a big plaster, a big smile on your face.
That's not something that a kid should have to deal with.
Hi everyone.
It's crazy.
I'm doing great. How are you doing? How are you doing, Rachel? Are you great?
Oh, really?
Me too.
It's so wild though, because so many people, you know, in their youth do have to deal with that, and still, you know, and it's not talked about that much, despite the amount of psychiatry and psychotherapy there is.
No shit.
I'm sure you've had plenty of clients that have come in with plenty of fucked up, you know, family dysfunctions and things like that, and they're trying to deal with it.
I don't think I have any
intense
clients that come in that didn't have a certain amount of fucked up family dysfunction. So I don't know. My perspective might be a bit skewed. I'm not sure I've ever run into a human being who didn't have a fucked up family.
I would say so. I
mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah, no,
I mean, there's the whole range, right?
Yeah. There's no way to be perfect.
Not perfect. Yeah, there's no perfect. We're just these humans trying to do our best to figure out what makes sense, man.
Life, just
How do you support a child to grow up and have a good life? You know,
what's the right move?
What's the right move?
There's toxins everywhere. There's toxic behavior. I mean, it's like so many different little things. Yeah, right. So many things you have to.
There's racism and injustice and misogyny and now. Not to be too political, but
go ahead.
You know, we got a president who represents all that shit all the way. Oh man, he's just so out there with it.
It's
which
interesting
is a
how
beautiful
polarizing
thing in a way because it's not hidden. He can't hide it, right? We have a president who can't pretend to be normal.
No, he can't.
Other presidents, even Nixon, in my day, I remember Nixon. He kind of looked normal, and then you found out that man was fucked up.
Crazy guy.
Crazy fucked up. At least we have a president who can't even look normal for like 10 minutes, man. It's just too much of a stretch.
It's too silly. Well, I mean, he was a reality TV show guy for years.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was growing up, I knew him as that, and when he ran for president, I was like, this is some unreal. This is some wild shit. You know, I did not even because like when we were sitting there, right? Yeah, and you know, waiting. I didn't expect that. I was like, that's not gonna happen. There's no way that the powers that be, the conspiracy, will let that happen. And then I'm like, wow, okay, and very interesting. I don't know what that means. Do not. Yeah, Mr. Cheeto Man. Oh god.
Yeah, and like people were even. I think a lot of people didn't want to say that they were going to vote for Trump because they felt bad about it almost, right?
Yeah,
they felt like, oh,
they did.
God, I'm going to vote for Trump. I can't tell my neighbors that, you know?
I almost didn't.
And then
vote.
suddenly, more people voted for him than we ever thought was.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And I had a couple friends who were very proud of it. You know, and I'm not ashamed for that. And I don't think that, you know, America is about doing what we want to do. But I was very surprised. Like I had one of my female friends, and she was just posting a lot of stuff. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting that you're doing that. You know,
posting a lot of pro-Trump stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, women for Trump. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that was your philosophy, and that's.
Was that before or after, like the recordings of him like saying I can grab pussy anytime I want?
It was after. Yeah.
So, isn't that weird to you? Doesn't that make sense? Like women for Trump who likes to kill and just not kill, but like take women's body parts for his own as if they're little objects for his pleasure.
I mean, for that one, that is it is kind of interesting. It's a deep rabbit hole. But yeah, on the surface level, it is kind of nasty. It's like you don't want to talk like that. But then you go into the thing. It's like, well, how do people talk in private? I mean, I don't even know that much about what happened with that. But
well, that's that whole thing: the private self versus the public self.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how big a gap do you want as a human being between
what is that difference?
Who you are in private and who you are in public? Mm-hmm. And for me, the bigger the gap, the crazier I feel. Right?
Well, yeah, you want to be in line with who you are, right? And yeah, Drumpf, not in line with who he is. I mean, at least that's what it seems. I mean, obviously, I don't know this person at all. I've seen what I've seen on the TV and such. But yeah, it does not seem like he's in line with his personality. That's for sure. So you have quite a lot of instruments here. You have an amplifier. You have this metal drum over here. You got some. Oh, you have a projector too. Wow.
I have a couple of projectors in here from some dance work that I did last summer with my
I would love to get into
my
that.
dance partner Jamian.
Jamian's awesome.
Jamian. We did a piece together, the three of us, right?
That was really fun. It was like kind of jam session.
And we even we recorded together like those lines from psychotherapy,
Yes, it was very cool. And that was like the beginning of my audio engineering stuff. So it was such a blessing to have you guys come through and just. But interact with that and help me with that. And it was fun recording you guys and just like seeing the, so that performance, what was it called again? The one that I came through to record.
Yes. What was it called again? I can almost think of it. It was called. Oh man, I can't think of it right now.
We could link it into the description if it's online.
Right. It was a good name too. I can't quite remember what it was.
Very interesting with the sheets. I really liked what you were doing with the sheet and using your hands and I think you used your head and your face a little bit underneath the sheet.
Yeah, we had this kind of stretchy fabric stuff.
Yeah.
So we could kind of create shapes by pushing different body parts through, And
that I thought was so amazing.
Kind of makes it a little more like people in the audience kind of like can use their imagination and throw it on there because it's less. It's like less data is coming in, and it's more like kind of abstract, and so it's almost like what do they call those in psychology? A Rorschach.
Oh yeah,
the ink blot thing where you kind of go, oh, it looks like a butterfly. I don't know.
Let the audience interpret.
And then they say in the psychology world, when you interpret something that's kind of what would be the word? It's like a little. It's not clearly defined. It's got some mystery to it or whatever, right? And there's room for you to project your own stuff on it. Yeah. Then they say, oh, now we'll take that. You saw a butterfly, but you saw like a witch. So we'll make some interpretation about what's going on inside of you based on what you perceived out there.
All of your fucked upness inside.
Or whatever.
All
all
the
these
beauty, all
weird
the beauty,
layers,
of course.
right? Yeah.
No, I really like that performance. I don't think I've come to any of y'all's other performances. You have done more, right?
You know, we just did one last summer that was based on originally it was the idea of there was a lot going on about boat people. People, refugees that were getting trying to take boats, like especially I think from North Africa across to Southern Europe, there was a lot going on there where people were ending up overloading boats, or like nefarious people would say we're going to get you across, and then they'd overload the boat and dump them or whatever in the middle of the water. They didn't care that for their lives very much. There was a lot of rescuing people out of the ocean, and the people desperate to find a better life, right? To find
they want that Western or whatever. They want that away from the warlords of their country. Or whatever,
just away from the amount of oppression maybe that they're experiencing from the outside, right?
Yeah, because culture, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, like families can be fucked up, and then your culture on top of that making your family fucked up. I mean, it's a ridiculous. I don't know. It's not really a cycle.
It's
a
hard
system.
being human. I think it's a real challenging thing. I look at my cat sometimes and think, you guys got it good. You won't appreciate that cat, but I do. Like, man, you're lucky that we're really nice to you, and you just come up and then we scratch your head, and it's like life is good, man.
That's all you have to do. You just have to capitulate just a tiny bit, and you have all your needs taken care of. Your Maslow's hierarchy.
That's right.
Be good.
The hierarchy's not too high with a cat. It's like kind of a flat thing, but we got all different levels, right? That's what Maslow's thing is. With survival level, and then there's all these, I can't remember all the specifics, but as you mentioned, it's like all that stuff kind of with the top being like self-actualization or something.
Yes, I think that is what it is, right? I don't know very much about it, but I've heard it, used here in America locally.
What's your imagination say when you hear self-actualization? What do you imagine that looks like or feels like, right?
That's I mean, for me personally, I would say it's a very self-aware state where you're like, okay, I understand why I'm doing these things, these subconscious things, like maybe like why am I scratching my face when I talk to this person, it's weird stuff like that, and you're like, oh, that is why I'm doing that, and then you kind of get more control. But I don't know, what would you say?
It's an interesting question. It's a very wide open question. It's like a Rorschach blot or something. What do you interpret as self-actualization? I tend to think, here's my thing, because I think about this a lot, being both a psychotherapist and an improviser. So I get to interact with people in a co-creative way. Yeah. That's what I think is the essence of both of those things. When I'm doing therapy with somebody, we're together. If you were my client, we'd have a conversation that we both create together, and neither of us knows where it's supposed to go, which is very similar to if you're going to improvise with somebody.
Yes.
Different than, well, we have this piece of music, and I'm going to read these notes, and we know how it ends, and if we did it right or we did it wrong, But if you're improvising, it's like, okay, we're just going to see what's going to emerge, and are we tuned in enough in the moment to like go, hey, this really cool thing started to happen. Let's go with that. It's very similar to what I do conversationally with clients. It's a dialogue between the two of us, and the version I do of therapy is a very it's not just talking head stuff, so it's not just left hemisphere.
Okay.
It's really an embodied. We're really because my belief is the healing process, and this is part of the self-actualization question, I guess. Part of self-actualization, I guess, would be that you're this idea of healing from past traumas, or like trauma. How does trauma prevent us from being present in our lives? How does it inhibit the number of choices we have? How does it influence like what kind of lens we see the world through? Like my father, dog eat dog world out there, dude. That's his lens, right? So what kind of life do you have when you think the world is just dogs eating dogs, man? Yeah.
Very scary. Very scary.
Fight, freeze, get fucked.
Just totally.
Win or lose. You either tear their throat out or tear your throat out. That's the two options. That's very limiting stuff, right?
Yeah.
So my self-actualization idea is that we can see, we can start to see as many of like our own prejudices, our own lenses, our own stories that we have in our head about what does this mean, what does that mean, and we can have a little bit more of like this witnessing capacity to ourselves and go, well, that's just a story. Dog eat dog is just, that's a story. It's a 3-word story. It's pretty short. It's not very complex.
No, it's not.
It's really simple.
It's very simple.
It's so fucking
sparky.
simple. I don't know how you get a shorter story than 3 words. You know, dog eat dog. The end.
Yeah. Period. Done.
Period. That's it. That's the whole story. But I look for that possibility of like, oh, well, that's just one story. What if I set aside my story? What do I feel? What do I hear? Try to get people in touch with, like, what's the data flowing through their body, their whole embodied self, right? Oh, your stomach's hurting right now. That's interesting. We were just talking about your mother or your spouse or whatever, and your stomach started to hurt. That's an interesting emergent piece of data. Let's just kind of flow with that.
Yeah.
So there's where I think psychotherapy, healing, and improvisation kind of have some common ground. Let's be open to what comes up that we didn't plan on, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Very just go with the flow, very free form. And I think that is important, like you were saying, with the right hemisphere or subconscious or whatever, because dreams, all that stuff, it does come out in ways that we have a script in our head and we're like, this is how I'm gonna present myself to the world. This is what I'm doing, and when you kind of open up and get more vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a key piece, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure with therapy, like you get a lot of vulnerability going on.
I think even people coming into therapy know that it's going to require some vulnerability. A few people show up once in a while thinking, give me the strategy to control the universe. And I'm like, sorry, if I had that, probably
I'd be winning.
I'd just
everything.
write a book and you'd be buying it,
Yeah.
man, and I'd be like sitting in my tower like, I'm in control of the universe. But I don't think we have that
Wizard
option.
of the Oz.
Not very self-actualized to want to control the universe, really.
No.
I think it's more like, I'm one of these particles bouncing around in the universe, and how do I be vulnerable? Am I courageous enough to be willing, like my father was, right? Because he was on survival mode.
Yeah.
Am I courageous enough to be willing to say, man, I have no idea, what that means, or, hey, I'm feeling this, and I don't even, part of me, I don't want to talk about it because I'm not sure where this is going to go, and maybe this gets me eaten as one of the dogs or something, but I'm going to take a chance that maybe it isn't a dog-eat-dog world for a minute. I'm going to set that aside.
It takes bravery, too. I mean, to be able to put yourself out there in such a way with anybody, because some people are dicks. Like, there are just people that are assholes, and they're in that survival mode, and they're like, oh, yes,
Mason.
this person. I mean, I'm just saying. But then at the same time, there's so many people out there that are willing to do that, and I do like that. And I try to always do that, too. And I've always appreciated that about you. We've been able to always just kind of connect, from when I was 13 and we all went on that river rafting thing. It was such an amazing experience to be with all these older men and learn, how you don't have to be, some gun-ho, like, dude. It was just like, hey, we're out here in nature. It's amazing. And camping trips we've gone on. Remember that one where we had to I think you, me, and Walter had to leave because the tent was like blowing over into the water.
It was like a windstorm or something going on.
And then we were like walking. Oh my god!
Walking through the woods, like it was getting dark, and we're like hustling to make sure that we don't start bumping into trees.
Yeah.
And
Oh my goodness! But we had some really amazing talks, and I mean that's the thing. Like people that aren't willing to be vulnerable, they will never get these experiences, and it's like they're robbing themselves, and it's very sad. It is, but that's on them, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, there is that element of just kind of personal choice. But I do think that's also why I have a lot of enthusiasm for like engaging people in conscious group activity where we say, let's try just seeing what we co-create together. There's that co-creation piece.
Yeah.
That's so, right now that is a really alive concept for me. How do we co-create something interesting together? That none of us has the plan already in our head. We might have some plan, but our willingness to let go of the plan when reality steps up
Yeah.
I think that's part of what makes somebody more sane, is they don't have like this rigid, like, no, this is the way things have to go. This is a good way. Oh, yeah, you get tight. This is a good way, and this is a bad way. We're gonna do the good way.
Very, very black and white, which
Very
obviously
black and
reality
white.
does not reflect.
Zeros and ones, right?
Yeah, very
Digital,
binary,
yeah,
very binary of them.
And I just don't think the universe is really binary. I think we make up
No,
binary.
it's a spectrum. There is a
Yeah.
1 here and there's a 0, but in between, you know how like
Infinite things
yeah.
between 0 and 1. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Literally in
Infinite.
math, it is
Yeah.
infinite. It's,
Yeah.
and it's quite amazing. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of space where improvisation happens, is where you kind of open yourself to this whole spectrum,
Yeah.
and you don't say, oh, well, what we're doing now is really bad. You know, or if you hear that part of you or that feeling comes up, gee, I think this is really sucks what we're doing right now. Like I have that experience sometimes in the job where I think, yeah, this isn't quite what I want it to be. And then I have to kind of just like I just kind of have to go, take a deep breath. Okay, I don't know what this is supposed to be. I can have my opinions, but I'm going to just be open. What is happening? Oh, maybe we're going through a part in a jam where the rhythm is getting a little disorganized, but that could just be a natural process. It's going to lead us to something else, and let's just be open to that process, that emergent process. So it's being open to sort of emergent
Yes. That's a good keyword for
qualities, emergent properties, emergent, there's some people that call it sort of the third body or something. You know, like
I haven't heard
there's
that one
you,
before.
there's me, and then if we are talking, like neither of us knew where this is going in our conversation, but there's a kind of a third body that emerges. It just has its own rhythm and it has its own destination.
It's drawing from us and we're creating it.
Co-creation, that co-creation.
That's
process.
actually a really cool concept. I don't know if I've thought of that one before. That's so cool though.
Yeah, it's kind of mind expanding kind of a concept. Isn't it?
Yeah, no, it really is like having that third party in the space. It's quite something.
And being again like so, having a group of people, because again going back to the beginning, like we all are born into groups, right?
Yeah.
Little group of family, bigger groups of
friends.
community, large group of the country or the society, capitalism, whatever it is, and the sort of the whole. What are all the assumptions that those groups have? And I think that's part of our evolution. Like, in order to survive as human beings, we weren't the biggest animal around.
No.
We weren't the fastest animal around. We didn't have claws. Our teeth are kind of small.
Yeah.
So I guess you'd say we developed this brain thing. That kind of was our niche, right? We developed this brain, but in order to survive, at least the way I imagine it, we needed each other. We needed to have little packs to hunt in. So we could bring down that big old thing there's 6 of us, and you go run over there and lead it here, and we'll surprise it with the spears or whatever. We had to be able to kind of plan some things out. This wasn't like, me go wrestle Tiger and defeat him with my giant arms. Yeah, it wasn't like that. We had to be more cooperative.
Yes, very
And
much.
so this whole survival thing that I think came about as a group, I think that's one of the things that is the most fascinating about being a human being.
I would say so too.
When we get into groups, I think there are all kinds of layers in our nervous systems that can get activated about, hey, do I belong in this group? Am I okay? Are they going to kick me out? If I'm too weird, are they going to kick me out, right?
Are they going to think that,
what's the hierarchy? Is there a hierarchy, and where do I fit into the hierarchy? And
constantly,
all that stuff goes on. And so I find it fascinating now to bring groups of people together. And I've been doing this for a few years where I really have been organizing improvisational groups, movement improv groups, movement and voice improv groups, more musical, vocal improv, kind of somewhat different focus, but it's all this idea of we're kind of wired up to create something together and to collaborate at some level. And what are the things that get in the way of that? What are the fears or what are the blocks in ourselves that get in the way of being co-creative with a group.
Yeah. What are those?
I think some of it is the pressure that we have to make sure we don't stand out too much from the group.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like as a lone wolf human, you probably didn't survive as well as if you were part of the pack.
Oh, yeah.
Or the whatever they call
You
it.
need that social muscle a little bit. Yeah.
You need that sense of like coordination and belonging, and hey, if I didn't find anything foraging today, maybe my buddy did, and they'll share it. So we gotta make sure we got buddies. We got a little. Yeah, I'll share some of this with you today. Maybe you share some with me tomorrow. You tell me where the hunting's good. When you figure it out, I'll tell you where I figure it out. Keep each other alive, right? And collaborative.
That so important. And that I've actually I haven't read, but I've seen some documentaries and stuff that talk about our ancient ancestors, and they say that like without that we wouldn't have survived. It was so important to us because not to get too Promethean, but like the only thing we had was our intellect, like you were saying. That was pretty much it. I mean, the social intellect
and our social connection.
Mm-hmm, all of that. Yeah, and without that, we would just be some soft humans, which we are. We're just
and
soft
an individual
humans.
soft human out there amongst all those animals that are stronger, bigger, and faster. I don't know how you'd survive alone, man. That's tough. And we have this really interesting. I was just thinking about this today before you arrived, because knowing we were going to talk about improv, I found myself having all these like ideas about improv, and as a young man, I remember growing up with the image that kind of the ultimate cool thing to be was like a musical genius or something like a Mozart.
Yeah.
And Mozart is kind of an image for me of like the individual genius guy who as a kid was already thinking up, symphonies by age 7 or 8, or he wrote an opera or something crazy by 7 or 8, right? Some crazy thing.
A prodigy.
He was a total prodigy and kind of a freak. Frankly, there's not very many Mozarts. That's like a way out of the bell curve kind of human to make as your ideal,
to be that young and to be that phenomenal.
And to have it happening kind of all in your own head. Like he wasn't like collaborating with other people. He just had this brain that could generate really complex structures. And then he learned how to write them down, and he could like give the music to like 20 adults, and and it would sound like what he had in mind. Very few of us can do that, That's that unique kind of lone. It's not so much about this co-creation thing, and I think that was kind of the image of, you have to be an individual who has this unique ability that sets you above the crowd. That somehow that was the ideal for me for a while, and then after I started getting together with other people. And being part of a group that was dysfunctional so much, but was creative, because I started getting into the dance world when I was in my early 20s.
Oh, nice.
And there was like, it was a very collaborative realm. You needed each other, you worked with each other. And when I got a taste of that, I thought, actually, this is like an alternative vision of what really cool thing could happen when you're co-creating.
Yeah.
It's not the Mozart, I'm the solo genius, everybody look up to me, therefore you won't kick me out of the tribe because I'll have like this...
I'm so valuable.
I'm so valuable.
Yeah.
I'll make myself invaluable and then I'll feel safe or something.
Yeah.
It was like kind of a fantasy resolution of the fear of like, maybe I don't really fit in at all.
Yeah, nothing except
they're gonna find out I'm a freak inside. Oh fuck.
I can so relate to that too.
Yes, you all can too, right?
I would definitely
people
say
can
that.
relate to that.
People can definitely relate to that.
I have so many clients that come in and they have the imposter syndrome, we call it.
Oh yes, where they think they're not good enough, right?
They think they're not good enough. They think everybody else is at a certain level and that they're not, and that their great fear is that people were going to notice, you're not like us, dude. Get out, go off on your own, survive without a job, go off in the forest by yourself. Yes. And that was death, I think. Long ago, evolution-wise, that was your end, man. If the tribe turned their back on you, die.
Yeah, it's a soft human. I mean, there's no way to do that on your own. Like, maybe for a little bit, and maybe for some, like, big Neanderthal motherfucker, but, like...
for a while,
Yeah.
a few people could probably let us.
That's not a good life for a human. We need this social connection.
So important, that interconnectedness, right?
Yeah.
I think that's part of self-actualization, too. It's just this, like, well, I recognize how I've been influenced by my life and my history and my culture, but I recognize also that I'm part of this thing. And maybe I do feel like I'm differently wired up than most people. Neurodiversity is a cool word, right?
Yeah,
Neurodiversity, because it's sort of being inclusive. It's saying you don't have to think and act the same way as everybody else. There's room for this whole ecology of different talents and different ways of seeing things.
Yeah.
And that's what I think improvisation kind of takes that as a strength and says, let's
do it.
You're going to bring this element in this time. Cool. We're going to like work with that. We're not going to say bad element. Go away.
That's weird.
That's too weirdo. That sound was not okay. Never
Not
make that sound
acceptable,
again. Right? It's like, no, man. Let's go with that. Let's all make that like, see what we create together. Oh, we're like a group of chimpanzees, like we're running,
God, you are really good at vocalizing.
I love vocalizing.
I mean,
It's
and
so much fun.
It is. When you brought me into that circle, I think I went twice with you at that place in Fremont.
Yeah.
And
The
that
circle
was
song.
Circle song.
Oh, I can almost think of the guy that invented circle song, Bobby McFerrin.
Bobby McFerrin. Okay.
You know Bobby McFerrin's name? You heard his name?
No. I was just saying it to the audience.
You would love. I mean, y'all would love. Check out Bobby McFerrin on YouTube or whatever.
Okay.
He is this vocal improviser who is so amazing, and he was like an individual talent that was so off the bell curve, like 4 standard deviations or whatever, like with his particular gifts.
Yeah.
He could do a solo career, but he ended up after a while, and he did that like as just a talented musical guy.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, he sort of looked and said, I really want to create community with sound. I want people to vocalize together. And so he created these circles and taught it all around the country and probably other countries too, internationally, no doubt. Like, let's come together and see what we create and how we connect and create something bigger than any individual could do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That
Make
was
some
his
pyramids.
thing. I think he's a more self-actualized musician in my mind.
Because he was able to let go and
Let go and
find
say, it's
those
not just my
opportunities.
ego achieving, I am great. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's nice. I can make a living, but now what? What's more like what's more beneficial to the bigger world?
Yeah, and I mean it kind of ties into therapy a little bit too, psychotherapy, because you're drawing that out of people, right? Because you're like a guide in a way, but you're not saying like, okay, well, this is the prescription for this. You're just kind of Rorschaching. You're letting them bring it out. You're bringing it out of them, and I mean I'm sure that's quite an amazing thing. With improv, you have all these. So you have 3 drums, and then this. What is this kind of drum called?
Man, I'm so bad at names. This is a what is this thing called?
Ooh.
It's a cajon.
Okay.
It's a cajon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank God it was written on the back because I couldn't fucking remember.
Yeah, I'm so
It's a cajon. It's a cool thing because you actually sit on this one, right?
Okay.
It's a big box, and it's hollow inside, and it's got some kind of vibration thing
Kinda like a
tacked
snare.
inside, like a snare-like thing.
Okay. That's what it sounds like. Here's the ring too that you're using.
Yeah, and it's kind of got different tones in different places, and I'm not like an expert at playing it, but it's got kind of a nice, different kind of feel than traditional ringing
resonance.
Yeah, almost bell-like tone.
You can just snap into
djembe.
rhythms.
Did we say the name of that's a djembe?
I don't think we did.
I think now I just remembered it's a djembe.
Djembe.
Djembe from Ghana. And I just got it re-headed because the goat skin eventually dries up.
Oh, so they removed the goat skin.
Yeah,
They put a new one on.
I was sitting around, this is interesting,
Hmm?
sitting around the living room, the djembe was in the corner, and all of a sudden I heard this big boom sound in the living room, alone.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Poltergeist.
Yeah, it's a poltergeist in the drum or something. And I looked over and this thing had popped and peeled back, and it just like practically exploded. Finally reached whatever...
The boiling point
It's
for it.
whatever its elasticity had gone beyond whatever, and so I just had that one with a different goat skin put on. So apparently there are different qualities of goat skin.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
it does feel new. Yeah.
Poor goat, but I guess it's we don't need skin anymore.
I'm an omnivore. I eat meat and I eat vegetables,
I
and
know.
fruits, and
We do have that relationship to other critters.
Yeah, and they do to us too. Like,
They
if
do.
we're in the wild, they would eat us. Yeah.
Right. And you know who wins it all in the end? The worms, man. They get us all. The microbes win.
Yeah, very true, very true.
The microbes win in the end.
It's such a circle.
They'll be here when we're long gone.
I was actually reading about Faraday, one of the people that were early electricity magnetism.
Magnetic stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did he have to say? I don't remember. I mean, I remember the name, but...
Yeah, well, I guess, as in his apprenticeship and when he was kind of trying to step into his own, him and Davies or something like that was trying to...
Ooh, 55, bro.
Yeah, we got a little bit... you trying to leave at 10:30, right? Or
Yeah, and I just
before
have
that?
to do a few things,
Okay,
so
yeah,
maybe we got 10
close
minutes.
this up. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. And he,
We could
he
go
had
on
this-
for hours, clearly.
I know, we could. Well, that's why we're gonna have to do this again.
We have to do it again.
If you're willing to, I
Yeah.
would love to. He just said there was like this cyclical thing. And it was like a very not seen in science before, and then they did some experiment to prove that that's how electricity magnetism worked. I can't remember the details,
Faraday,
but
yeah. When did Faraday live? When is that?
1809, I think, is when he was born. He was in the 1800s. 1809 to like 18. Maybe he was actually born in the late 1700s. But yeah, in that time, pre-industrial, when they're all inventing cool stuff. And, but yeah, it's I was reading this book called
science
Master.
was just like
Science
gathering momentum. Like science, we can figure stuff out, how it works.
Yeah. Oh
That's
my
such
God.
an amazingly exciting thing.
It is. I mean, that's these instruments are kind of a creation of science in a way too.
Though some of these are like, I wonder when the first djembe got invented, right? I mean, that must go back. Who
who
made
did
the
that?
first drum? Who was the first humanoid that said, "Wow, that's kind of cool. Everybody, come here!
Let's get that rhythm.
Hey, look, we're bobbing our heads together."
And that's so interesting about music too, because there's that synchronicity, that in sync kind of thing that happens with people, because you're all just
You do get a rhythm going, a group rhythm.
and other
That must
instruments,
be part of I would imagine that we all feel that it's kind of like a way to feel united, or like we're one with each other, if we're one with the rhythm, right?
Yeah.
You see that in big concerts. People are all like swaying, and where else in life do 10,000 people sway together?
That's a really good
That
point.
does not happen any other way except through music. I mean,
that's very true, and it's such it brings people together in such an amazing way, and that's what's so cool about improv. And all right, before we close, I would love to just talk a little bit about your improv projects, things that you've been doing, in the past and lately, anything coming up.
gosh, I just closed out yesterday a group that's been going for 4 years.
Wow.
We were meeting pretty much every other Friday afternoon for 2 hours for 4 years, and that was a hard group to keep together. It's like it takes some energy to keep a group going like that. We were doing
4 years.
dance, but then we really quickly, really from the beginning, we brought voice into it too. And this was more like it would probably look from the outside more like weird theater improv in a sense.
Okay.
Because with our voice, somebody might have a thought about Sigmund Freud or something, and start making up a song about Sigmund Freud, and somebody else would jump in and be Sigmund Freud's weirdest client, and we'd be moving and making this little weird opera about Sigmund Freud's theories or something. It was a group of
Improv.
therapists who were improvisers, so it was a unique
Okay.
combination. So there was
that is a unique
more of that
combination.
tendency. There's not as many of those as I would think there should be, but you know, there was like about 5 of us at any given time.
Maybe you can be the
Seattle.
catalyst for that. Light that flame under their asses.
Yeah, maybe so. So that one we just wrapped up just because people's lives have kind of gotten busy and going into training programs here and there and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This vocal improv group that I want you to participate in if you can.
Oh, definitely.
That's an up and coming thing, and I could imagine. I'm interested in putting some energy into sustaining that over time because that just feels again. It just brings me a lot of joy. You know, it just brings me a lot of joy. When you find something brings you joy in this world, you gotta latch onto it, baby. You can't just like, well, that's too hard. You know, that takes
Too
a lot
much
of work.
work. I can't.
Too much work. I just watch TV, man.
That
TV's
is
so much
my
easier.
job.
But you know, I don't get a hell of a lot of joy from TV anymore. So, if I ever did,
I mean,
I
go
think
back
that
and
I think
forth with it.
TV was my alcohol as a kid. You know,
It was that
instead of being a
addiction,
drunk, I just
yeah.
watched TV.
I think a lot of people, the youth, I think definitely is very addicted to that stuff these days.
Screens. That's a whole other podcast.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, we can't get into it
Humans
now.
interacting with screens. How's that going to
Black
change
Mirror, right?
our right? How's that going to change our wiring over time? I have a question for you. I thought, imagine I've invented a time machine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a time travel machine,
Okay.
and I can offer you one trip. Okay, now it can only be one trip. You can either go to the future and come back, or you can go to the past and come back. You can't do both because it alters your DNA a little bit, and you'll just like melt into like a pile of electrons or something if you do too.
Okay.
What do you choose? Do you go to the past to check something out, to witness it, or do you go to the future to check something out and bring that knowledge back here? What do you do?
I don't have a choice to change anything, so I can't interact with my own life. Right?
You can't change the past to the future, but you can bring the knowledge
Okay.
to the present.
I see.
Which would you go to, the future or the past? Can't do both.
I think I would go to the past because the future is going to be very interesting, but there's a lot of things that I'd like to know. I don't know exactly where. I'd have to probably have to take at least a year to think about where and when.
Sure.
In the past.
Yeah.
But, something that I'm okay, I really want to know this thing.
Yeah.
Because in the future.
Does anything
if I
pop
go-
to mind just about oh man, wouldn't that be interesting to
I'm
have been
thinking of
there?
Socrates a lot right now.
Okay,
so,
Socrates.
yeah, so, maybe just listen in on one of his little lectures with
Wouldn't that
his
be
people.
awesome?
Yeah, just hear what he's actually
You might
saying.
have to train up on your Greek first,
Probably
so you
a
know
lot,
what the hell
yeah,
they're talking
probably a
about.
lot. I don't even know any Greek.
Unless you
so-
bring your Google Translator
Yeah.
with you, maybe. and
Just
it's pretty-
record it, yeah, something like that. If I could record it and then have some person translate it,
Yeah.
that would be amazing. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
I thought of the past too. I was thinking, I don't know if I want to know the future. But what if I go 100 years in the future and it's just a scarred planet? There's no
Like Time
life
Machine.
left. Yeah.
The book, yeah.
Yeah, like in the time machine, I'm like, fuck, do I really want to know this is the future? Does this do me any good? Do I go back and tell everybody, we're doomed,
We're
fuck
fucked.
it.
We're so
Just
fucked.
don't worry about it, just drink more and
Yeah.
just
Be reckless. Sodom and
just
Gomorrah. let's
buy
just do it.
some more guns and,
Yeah, let's
fuck
just
it,
go
there's
crazy.
nothing to live for. I don't want to know that, really. So I would go to the past. I would choose the past. I mean, the only thing I could see helpful about the future is if you were basically going to check out the stock market 2 years down the road. Write down the name of a really
Good idea.
company
Very
that grew a
good
lot
idea.
and come back and invest your asset or something. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I could see helpful about that. But the past is fascinating to me. I am so what was going on? What was it really like to be a part of that civilization? How did it feel to be part of that culture that's so different from now?
Yeah.
Or
Is
when,
it different too?
observing the evolution of human life. Hey, if I could dial it to who did play that first drum, I would love to see that scene unfold in front of me. The
It's
first drummer or
ooh.
something, right? Or whatever it was, the first vocalist. It makes me, I mean,
that would be
all
quite
kinds of
amazing.
possibilities.
200,000 years ago, something like that. Some
whatever the
wild
hell that
time.
was. Something. That's just my. I just thought of that today because I thought
Well, that's a really cool
Yeah.
question. I mean,
It's a great question.
Do you do that in improvs, like when you start the improv things, or for the singing and drumming circles?
It's a cool thing to kind of bring up, like, well, what would you want to see? Like you brought up Socrates, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So what is it about Socrates? What do you imagine about Socrates? Then I'd ask somebody, okay, what energy do you feel when you think about Socrates?
Yeah.
Do you get kind of juice flowing to, where do you feel it? And then that's like a starting point for right
A lot
now,
of things.
like having a little dance of that. What if you move that energy a little bigger that you feel when
yeah.
you like think about Socrates? Is it want to make circles? Is it
Questioning, very questioning.
Yeah, yeah.
Curious.
like, yeah, the curiosity piece. Curiosity is a great human quality, right?
It is. Yeah.
Curiosity.
It's dangerous, and yet it's one of our greatest assets in a lot of ways.
Totally is. And the more curiosity I think we can bring to our world, the more likely we are to actually experience life. I mean, it's what's the opposite of curiosity? Is almost like certainty. Like, I know everything already. It's a dog-eat-dog world. That's all you need to know, boy.
Which is like ignorance too at the same time.
It is.
Yeah.
Because you're locked into your one story, and therefore you don't need to be curious about anything. If it doesn't fit in the story, maybe you don't even notice it, right? We have that propensity as humans, like, anyway, go on and on.
Yeah, no,
right? We have to wrap up. We have to wrap up. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you for coming
I love
on.
doing this. This
And
is
is there
awesome,
anything else
man.
you'd want to plug that we can put in the show notes or description?
Improvise. Find some people, find some friends, get some jamming going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dial me up if you want to. Well, I don't know if I give out my number on the podcast,
But if you know somebody who knows somebody, come through to the
find a circle song in your community. The Bobby McFerrin stuff.
Yeah.
It's so cool to just vocalize with a group of people,
Mhm.
and people you don't know. You end up sharing something and you feel connected with in a way you
Yes,
wouldn't just passing on the street. Like, get up
Yeah,
or yeah.
Awesome.
That's it. Pretty much at this moment.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Alright.
Well, this has been awesome. Michael Clawson. This has been the Mind Link Frequency. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Signing off.